Here I'm going to help you solve some problems that were assigned from the binder. So we're looking at the changing conditions. And we're using this map right here. This is the activity that involves 5 different locations. You're only looking at letters A, B, C, D, and E on the map here. We're actually kind of ignoring the transect for now. So I've got letter A, B, C, D, and E. So at location A, this location is in Texas. This is behind the cold front boundary. Location B, this is in kind of northeast Oklahoma. This is also behind the cold front boundary. Location C, this is located in Illinois. This is ahead of the cold front, but behind the warm front. This is in the warm sector of the mid-latitude cyclone. Then we look at location D. This is in Iowa. This is actually a region of the occlusion. And even though we'll just kind of graze over it here for now, for this activity, we can still talk about what's taking place here. And then location E. This happens to be in Indiana, and this is ahead of the warm front. So as we look at the changing conditions here, as to what's taking place at these individual points, right? 5 different locations. You're only looking at the letters, not along the transect. So here's what we have. Here's what we have. Letter A, and you can pause this and kind of sort this out yourself, but I'm going to talk you through. At location A is back here in Texas. The temperature is going to be getting cooler or colder. Notice the cold air mass, this continental polar air mass is kind of filling in, so the winds are definitely going to be out of the north-northwest here. Or the air is coming from the north-northwest, but remember, the winds are going to blow in and they're going to be deflected right. So we could say that it's going to be winds are going to be out of the southwest here, but remember, this is cold air that's blowing. This air is coming out of the north. So the air is coming from the north-northwest, but it's blowing from the west-southwest. Remember, pressure gradient force and then deflected right Coriolis. That always holds true. But I want to remind you that this is the air that's going to be blowing. So this air is what's coming out of the north. Moving on here. So the pressure trend's going to be rising because the mid-latitude cyclone is moving away. So my barometric pressure lines, or my isobars, are moving away. So as I get further from the low, pressure trend is going to be rising, increasing. A very low chance of precipitation and a very low moisture, very cold, dry air mass. Location B, right here. The temperature is also going to be falling, and the pressure trend is going to be rising also, right? The low pressure is moving away. We've got very low moisture, and we have very low chance of precipitation, right? It already happened. The cold front already moved through, so any storm would have cleared out the moisture, and this would be kind of clear, dry conditions. And the winds here, if I look here, deflected to the right, it's going to be out of the southwest. And here's a picture that'll help you make sense of kind of in between. We often talk north and northwest, but if you're north of northwest, we call it north-northwest. If you're west of northwest, it's considered west-northwest. So make sure you can follow this as well. So here is I'm looking at location C. This is the warm sector. Maritime tropical air is being pumped in here, pushed in here. Warm air, we've got our warm air, that's the temperature trend. It's going to be rising. We've got pressure trend is going to be falling, right? The low pressure is going to be moving out of here. Depends on how you want to look at this. If I look at just the isobars themselves, you might say it's steady, but I know that a cold front is coming. I know precipitation is on its way. Generally, where we find precipitation, we have air rising, so we could say low pressure. I'm not overly concerned about this location right here. That's kind of a tricky plate. That's a really tricky spot to determine that, especially if you're reading isobars and you know that a storm is coming. So I would say either steady to and even decreasing. Moving on here. So here I said falling. Moisture content, it's warm, moist air, so I'd say high. It's also increasing. I've got a storm on the horizon. Chance of precip is low. I'm in between those boundaries, the frontal boundaries. And I could say that the wind, if I look at it here, moving kind of deflected right, kind of out of the south, maybe out of the southeast, maybe even south-southeast would be okay. If I look here at location D, where's D up here? This is the point of the occlusion, or the region of the occlusion. I would say temperatures are falling. I'd say the pressure is low, but steady to rising. Right, once this low pressure moves on, I mean, you're right next to the low pressure. It's safe to say, even though it's rising, it doesn't mean it's under high pressure. It just means that the low pressure is moving out of the area. Let's see, where are we at here? Chance of precip, very high. At the point of the occlusion itself, it's likely experiencing precipitation. Could be a transition if this is really cold. Could be sleet, could be snow. But this area right here is very safe to say it's getting precipitation. This is your occlusion area. And then the winds here, if I look at D, straight in, deflect it right, north, northeast, kind of out of this general direction. Let's see here. Letter E is over here, and letter E, I would say that the temperature trend, temperature is going to be rising. I mean, in this case here, you've got a warm front on the brink of the horizon, so you know that warm air is on its way. Pressure trend, falling. I can follow my isobars, barometric pressure. As this moves this way, I've got lower air pressure here. And let's see, moisture. It's going to be low, but the moisture is going to be increasing. I've probably got some steady to moderate rain on its way. Chance of precip at this location right here, low. Maybe in the next couple hours will be increasing. And the wind direction, if I look here, deflect it right, I would say kind of east-southeast, kind of in this general direction. And that concludes the 5 different locations part of your homework section. The second part of your homework assignment involved Columbus, Ohio along transect A to A prime. So you'll need to plot points along the transect similarly to what we've done in the past transects. So we'll call this A prime up here. We'll call this point A, or location A. Location B, I want you to place it right next to the warm front. So I did an example here. And you'll plot it immediately ahead of the warm front. Location C, you're plotting along the transect where C is near C, where it is on the map, but we'll put it out here along the transect. Location D, you'll plot this along the transect in front of the cold front, right here on the boundary. And then location E will replace letter A. So we do a little modification, but I like this map. I think we get a lot out of it, so we'll just modify it. We'll modify it to make it work. So we can look at it a couple different ways. So when I go about solving it, make sure that we are paying attention to the location. So I've got A, B, C, D, and E. So, and you can pause this and go through this yourself. I do want to make sure that we are recognizing that there are some small incremental directions of winds that we can add to it. So we could have a south, southeast, south, southwest, etc. But pay attention to this. You can pause it, go over this yourself. Here would be an answer key that I would say, this looks pretty good. Come with questions if you have them.